Great Britain. If there's one thing I've learned from staring at hours of drone footage on YouTube, it's that Great Britain, the largest island of the British Isles, is actually quite big. From the valleys of Wales to the Highlands of Scotland, the sunny Cornish coast to the rugged Cumbrian fells, and the dozens of cities dropped onto the landscape between, the diversity displayed by this one island is spectacular. And it's inspired me. I want to follow in the footsteps of many others before me. I want to attempt a challenge I once thought was beyond my reach. It was only when I performed the York Review expedition that I started to think it was even possible. I want to cycle the length of this country, south to north, from Land's End to John O'Groats. Now, this is a challenge in itself, but I want to add a restriction to make it a little bit harder. There's something about the nomadic lifestyle of strapping a tent to your back and wandering around that really appeals to me. Mostly because it's cheap. And so I want to do the whole thing without using B&Bs or hotels. I can stop with friends and family en route, but most of the time, I'll be wild camping. This video is the documentation of our attempt. I'm no expert, but I'll talk you through how we went about it, so maybe some of you can give it a go yourselves. So come and join us, as we take on one of the UK's greatest challenges. So you might be thinking, I'm in the York Review outfit right now, my bike's behind me, I'm about to record an episode of York Review. Well, that's not quite right. Today I begin a journey of completely epic and ludicrous proportions. I'm going to attempt, and hopefully complete, the Land's End to John O'Groats challenge. Now this isn't the sort of thing you just go out and do, it helps to get a little organised first. The full journey is over 900 miles depending on your route, so you need to pack practically, and I actually brought quite a lot of stuff. Let's break it down. Roll mat, tent and sleeping bag, your essentials for wild camping. Cycle helmet and a midge hat to keep the insects off at night. Pair of joggers to sleep in, my keys, my wallet. Waterproof phone sleeve, now this is good, it clips into the handlebar and you can use it for navigation. Toiletries for me, toothbrush, toothpaste, sun cream, shower gel and a tiny towel. Toiletries for the bike, a pump, multi-tool, puncture repair kit and tape. I'd also bring a spare inner tube if you could find one. I couldn't though. You'll want a bike lock, chargers, and water bottles. And I brought a pair of headphones for the train. I also travelled with a bag of snack food as well, pasties, flapjacks, fruit, and that's just so I could eat if I went for a while without seeing a shop or cafe. And with all that miraculously stuffed into my saddlebags, I was ready to go. Better get a move and I got a train to catch. Got my bike to Land's End using only trains, our group opted for a different route. I'd booked slots on trains from York to Worcester, where I was going to meet up with the rest of my team for an overnight stop before heading down. Even though we weren't going to start until tomorrow, I couldn't help being a little nervous about the weather conditions I was travelling down in. What were we getting ourselves into? At the crack of dawn, we departed from Worcester, in a van. We had to do this because it would be hard to find a train which could fit all 4 bikes at once. Unfortunately, the van could only hold 3 people, so one of us ended up taking the train down.
Oh, okay.
Everything seemed to be going well, but as we approached Penzance, we had an unfortunate surprise with the weather.
I am not liking the look of this.
But when we arrived, the rain had stopped. We must have drove through the entire storm, which was pretty lucky. We dropped off our van and assembled the bikes in dry conditions.
And here we are! Well, 3 of us anyway. We've just used this Enterprise brand van to carry our 4 bikes down from Worcester to Penzance, which means that right now we are at mile -11 of the challenge. So, with that in mind, we're now going to move towards Penzance to capture our 4th rider, and then we will set off to Land's End.
It's actually quite tricky using 3 people to move 4 bikes,
We had to cycle one, run back, cycle the other, and repeat. Eventually we managed to leapfrog the bikes all the way to Penzance Station.
Well, despite everything, it looks like the sun has come out today. And we are with Dom now, who's scurrying away from the background. I'm wearing a cycling shirt for once. It's looking pretty good. And off to Land's End.
And so we are off. Only a 1 hour cycle to the true beginning of the adventure. Who would have thought it would be so difficult getting all our gear to the most remote point in England? But despite everything, we had done it. We had arrived at Land's End. Land's End itself turned out to be far more touristy than I was expecting. We explored the sights a little, met a nice couple who wished us luck, and even saw a lighthouse, but I was determined to get a photo of the Land's End signpost.
There's a cue for the picture. I think it can be a bit more clever than that. I'm going to get this picture without cueing.
Let me introduce you to the team. We have Dom, Paul, myself, and Andy. While everyone was important in the journey, my teammates will mostly be playing background roles in this video. After all, not everyone wants to appear on YouTube doing this.
Land's End marks the start of our Land's End to John O'Groats journey. It's exciting times. Let's do this. We begin our voyage. So far, so good.
The plan was simple. Get as far as we could with what little daylight we had left. If we could get 40 miles under our belt now, that would set us in a great position for the first full cycle day tomorrow.
Haha! That's brilliant. First and last. Wow.
The first task was retracing our steps back to Penzance, and looking for us, we already knew this bit. We'd spent a long time getting started, so it was late afternoon by the time we got back here. From there we pressed on to Port Kellis in search of food, which is where we discovered our first obstacle. This is the Star Inn, one of very few pubs in this area. Our plan was to hit places like this for food, but when we arrived, they weren't serving. And these country roads aren't exactly lined with food shops. We had no choice but to press on, and to hope we had more luck at the next place we found.
We're gonna get some food. We feel we've earned it.
Eventually we did find food, although it meant cycling in the dark. At only 29 miles into our cycle, we had to stop. So we pitched up on a passing campsite. All we could do was hope for a better day tomorrow. We awoke in what turned out to be quite a nice campsite, and using my charm and street smarts, I immediately befriended a local.
Hello?
It wasn't quite the wild camping experience I was expecting, but at least it wasn't a hotel.
We are just striking camp on the first morning. We're about 35 miles behind schedule. But you have to remember we only did a half day on the first day, so that is to be expected. You can see if we can make up some ground today.
After we struck camp, we immediately set off to Truro for breakfast. This place turned out to be a lot larger than Port Kellis, and we were actually spoilt for choice when it came to food. The gang ended up getting a coffee at a place called Kaku Chi, but I was keen to try something a little different.
When in Cornwall, eat as the Cornish do. Get yourself a Cornish pasty from the oldest Cornish pasty maker in the world. Tom and I have gone for massive Cornish pasties.
Oh yeah, you can tell it's proper by the way. It's
great.
They've seen the way.
How is it, Dom? It's huge.
Out of 10?
It's up there.
Okay, it's up there.
9. Good. Strong. Welcome to the beautiful town of Truro. And it was really nice when we arrived, but it started raining now just as we're about to leave. And we have some long hills ahead of us. So, yeah, not good.
One of the reasons we were being so slow was due to the terrain. If we look at the distance and climb from the hilliest episode of York Review, and we compare it to the journey between Truro and the next Cornish town, we find that Cornwall is actually 44% hillier. It's
It's relentless. We did some unexpected off-roading and ended up somewhere very surprising.
So completely out of the blue, we've stumbled across the Eden Project, of all things.
The rain wasn't too bad, we were all fed, and it even chanced upon a landmark. Things were going great. For a while.
So, we have had an absolute disaster. Well, I've had a disaster. So, we're cycling along up a hill, pretty steep. I tried to do a gear change, and this is what my bike looks like now. So, this is all that's left of my chain. My chain has now snapped. We're in a bit of a dire situation, really. The plan is to go to Halfords and see if they can fit it on the day. Of course, it's Sunday, so most of the bike shops are closed. We get a taxi to the nearest one, and hopefully we can get back to cycling by the end of the day, because we are really far behind schedule at the moment.
It was looking bleak. My uphill gear change had cost me dearly. Without a chain, the bike couldn't even limp along. In all my years of cycling, I'd never had a chain snap on me. I had no idea what to do. If Halfords couldn't sort us out, I'd be on the next train home. So I got in a taxi with Andy, and we hoped for the best. At the store, we were told the bike could be fixed there and then, but there was a catch. My old, worn-out rear sprocket caused the chain to snap in the first place. To prevent this from happening again, I needed a new sprocket, but none of the ones they had in fit my bike. There was one which could fit, but it would mean losing my low gears. In the hills of Cornwall, this would be especially challenging. But I had no choice. I replaced the sprocket, and with reduced capability, I rejoined the team. The ordeal took up a lot of time, and we didn't get much further. We stopped for a dinner of bar snacks at the Market Inn in St Clear, and after filling up on chocolate and crisps, and getting some weird looks from the locals, we set out looking for a place to pitch up.
We found an excellent spot for day 2 camping. There's this field, middle of nowhere, and it's completely undetectable from the road. It's fantastic. Of course, you do have to get the bikes over a stile to actually get in, and that's a bit of a challenge. Masterful.
Even though the campsite was nice, my chain drama had cost us quite a lot of time, and we ended the day only 74 miles away from Land's End. Things would definitely need to pick up tomorrow. Day 3 started with a major achievement. We had finally reached our second county.
We've done it, gang. We finally left Cornwall.
After this, things took a turn. The rain we were so carefully dodging finally caught up with us. We spent a long while sheltering under the sturdy canopy of the Lidford farm shop. Eventually we felt brave enough to venture out and pass through Dartmoor in style along the Granite Way.
So we have finally arrived in Devon. We're on the Granite Way at the moment, trying to avoid some of the nasty hills that we've come across so far, and also we're very thankful that it stopped raining, because it was brutal before. We're all in our coats, we're too scared to take them off. It was intense.
This route was a former railway line, which means it's very flat. Without the hills to contend with, we were finally making good progress. But even experienced video makers get too cocky. I wasn't paying full attention and my handlebars clipped the railing, throwing me off my bike. But I recovered quickly, and I'm not sure my teammates ever found out this happened, until this video of course. I was fine after my crash, but then Dom came off on a slippy bridge soon after, and he was a bit more scratched from it. After the Granite Way, we bought some medical supplies from Boots Pharmacy in Oakhampton. The back-to-back cycle days were also starting to take a toll on some of the team. Dom even bought a knee brace to prevent cycle injuries. After the Granite Way drama, things started to settle down, but later on we were struggling to find a campsite. Wild camping isn't exactly legal in England, so you need to find a spot which is out of the way. But all we could see were country roads and farmers' fields, with the farmhouse always nearby. Eventually we spied a public footpath sign and took a gamble. By hiding behind these hedges, we were invisible to cars coming from the bottom of the hill. We were very exposed from the other direction.
We just needed to remain undetected for a few hours until the darkness of night could hide us. By the end of day 3, we'd been battered by rain, hills and tarmac, but we had managed another 45 miles and reached 119 miles total. We were definitely making progress, but not quite at the rate I would have liked. With Cornwall done though, we were on track to make big gains tomorrow. Surprise! This video is going to be split into multiple parts. This is only really a surprise if you're watching in the first week, as I've temporarily removed the part 1 from the title of this video. I'll release these as a mini-series and then upload a mega compilation video at the end. For now, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. Did we get through the night in our sketchy wildcamp position, or were we spotted by troublesome farmers? Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss the next part.